Hello and welcome to the Night Feed. I'm your host, Charlotte, here to keep you company during, let's face it, one of the toughest parts of being a new parent, Night Feed. Tonight's unpaid sponsor is the fearless one-year-old stage. To say my heart lives permanently in my mouth at the moment is an understatement. A one-year-old boy is something else. He climbs. Boy, does he climb. He has gone from this little bundle of joy newborn to this climber in obviously 12 months. It's absolutely flown, and the way they move around, he's only 14 months. It's unreal. And you know those little climbing frames you see in parks that are made for probably 3-4 up. They are like white knuckle rides for me because he loves them. He gets himself up on the steps. Obviously I help him a little bit, but he absolutely storms round it like nothing. And the difficult thing with it is each side has a sheer drop to a fireman's pole, or steps that he can't yet navigate because they're made from bars. Nothing phases him. I'm like, which way on the climbing frame do I go so that he doesn't just dive off? It is absolutely nuts. Meanwhile, my 4 and 5-year-old are up some massive spider's web. So our cortisol levels at the moment, with it being the school holidays, are generally on a bit of a peak. But yeah, it's funny, isn't it? His new thing at the moment is the kitchen sink. Now, that's harmless, you may say. He loves a good old splash with a tap. And as my 94-year-old nan would say, he's not doing any harm. That's what she always says. He's not doing any harm. They're not doing any harm. That's what she says when my girls go to hers, and she goes, they're not doing any harm. And there they are, sat playing with their antique car collection from the 1950s. I would love some of that chill. But yeah, the kitchen sink floods the kitchen, means 12 outfit changes a day. And I know you're probably saying, getting one of those waterproof painting aprons. I've done that, and no, it doesn't work. It goes down the sleeves, down the neck, into the nappy. He's drenched. So I've just been putting him in a nappy at the moment and letting him go at the sink. And in fairness, it's getting me a bit of time because he's still at the sink. So he has his little pots and his little toys in the sink. I have to get on those toddler towers because I'm just literally sat cradling him on a chair, in fear that he'll fall off. So toddler tower is next on the list. If anyone has any recommendations, any good toddler towers that they've had or that they've used, preferably a foldable one so I can kind of keep it tucked away, let me know. How are we all? Sorry I missed last week. I'm finding it tricky in the summer holidays because we're so out of routine to get my recording time. Obviously the girls are both off school. Jason's working. And we've been having little trips away here and there, which has been really lovely. And I've had the best intentions to take the mics, take the laptop, and make sure I find some time to record. But in principle, it would just be rushed, and I don't want to do that. I don't like rushing these and just getting them out. I like to think about it. I like to sit down and properly read all your emails, and I enjoy recording it. Because even though it's a one-way conversation, a podcast, I feel like it's not, because I feel like I get your emails and I love kind of catching up with you guys. But I'm finding it a bit tricky, like I say, just to get into that routine. So come September, I'll be back to it, and every week I'm gonna try and keep going from here now, to be honest. But yeah, just my apologies because I don't like missing weeks, like I always said. I'm coming to you today though, exhausted on a hot Tuesday, having taken a trip to the library, which resulted in pushing the double buggy home whilst simultaneously giving my eldest piggyback in 80-degree heat. I was telling myself I could do it, those ultra marathon and high rocks ones, but now I'm a goner. I came up for a wake me the F up shower. But instead I thought, you know what? I'll take this time and I'll take my time to record this podcast and chat to you guys instead. But I hope your summer holidays are going well. I know not everybody has children of school age or toddlers. I know some of you have brand new newborns. So in that case, the school holidays don't mean as much in a way, other than quieter roads and soft plays that are much busier than they usually would be. But I hope you're all enjoying summer either way. I am enjoying the warmer climate. It can be super hot on days, but actually I love being able to just get in the garden, go to the park, go to the library, just do all these things, because we have had summers in the past where it's just rained. So I am not complaining. But speaking of you guys, I've had lots of book recommendations after sharing I was reading The Nightingale. And just if you're interested, the top few are The Women and The Four Winds, which are also by Kristen Hanna. They came up a lot as recommendations, as did The Correspondent by Virginia Evans and Broken Country by Claire Leslie Hall. So I just thought I'd share those few with you if you fancy picking something up, because they were the ones that kept coming up in your responses. And I finished The Nightingale. Oh my God, I sobbed. And I don't just mean like, I mean like I said the other day when I was reading it, like when your stomach churns with tears. No spoilers here. But a book has never moved me like that book did. It was so powerful. It was tragic. It was beautiful. The way Kristen Hanna develops her characters throughout the book is just phenomenal. You feel like you know each and every one of them, and there's twists and there's turns, and I just couldn't put it down. So much so, I was in like the last few chapters the other day, and the baby had just fed to sleep on me. And I was like, right, I'm just going to stay here. The girls were happily watching Steve and Maggie. So I was like, right, I'm just going to pick my book up. Oh my God. I was like, tears streaming down my eyes, like reading really heavy parts about, the emancipation of some of the concentration camps. You can imagine the end of World War II and what was happening to these characters. Again, no spoilers, but oh my God, I was in bits, and I probably shouldn't have been reading it at that point, because I was getting asked for cheese strings left, right, and centre, and all kinds. I'm like, what kind of world am I in right now? I'm in two very different worlds. But yeah, The Nightingale was phenomenal. Never been moved like it by any book. So yeah, highly recommend it. And it's not one of those books where it's just a constant sad cry fest. It's really interesting, and it's so powerfully written about such a pivotal point in history, especially for women living in German occupied France. I find that so fascinating, what they went through on every level, like how difficult it was for them, and how the men who were fighting on the front, they're all heroic, and there's so many films about them, isn't there? And we have lots and lots of historical films about what it may have been like to be a soldier, but there's not much about what the women on the home front went through. And I think it's such an important part of war, what the mothers and the daughters that were waiting at home, and the women in general, what they did and what they had to do and what they put up with is just like, wow. So like when I'm moaning about someone playing in a sink, it's like, come on. But anyway, it's really good. I'd really recommend it. Yeah, and keep your recommendations coming through, because I'm in like a whole reading stage now, and I'm loving it. My next book that I'm reading is called The Wind Knows My Name, and I can't remember the author, but it's called The Wind Knows My Name. It's historical fiction again. But yeah, that's where I'm at. So onto the emails. So this one is a response to Vicky, who wrote in last week about daycare. She was saying how she's worried about putting a baby into daycare shortly. And this email says, "Hi Charlotte, I just wanted to reply to the listener whose little one is started nursery. My daughter started at 10 months and I was far more anxious than she was. One thing that really helped us was talking about it positively in the days beforehand. Even though she was little and her understanding wasn't there as much, she kind of picked up on the calm vibe. So I'd say things like, 'You're going to have so much fun playing today.' And I honestly think my calmness rubbed off on her. I also recommend letting them take a comforter or blanket if the nursery allows. My daughter had a little muslin she slept with, and seeing it in the photos the nursery sent was really reassuring. The settling in sessions were harder for me than they were for her. I found it best to keep goodbyes short and leave confidently rather than just sneaking away. The first week was emotional, but within a couple of weeks, she was crawling without even looking back at me. It does get easier, I promise. I love Rachel. Thank you, Rachel. I hope, Vicky, that helps you. Please keep your emails on this topic coming in, because I know there are a lot of mums listening to this who are thinking about the return to work. So please keep your lovely reassuring emails coming in, because I know it will definitely help. Next email says, what do you wish you'd known before? Hi Charlotte, firstly, thank you for your podcast. Currently on maternity leave, my little girl who's 10 weeks old, and your episodes have become part of my daily routine. They make the middle of the night feeds feel so much less lonely. Really glad to hear that. I was chatting to one of my friends the other day who's due to have her first baby next month, and she asked me, what's the one thing you wish someone had told you before becoming a mum? It completely stopped me in my tracks, to be honest, because there were so many things. Firstly, I wish someone had told me that I'd spend weeks wondering if I was doing everything wrong. I also wish someone had told me that babies can make so many strange noises when they sleep. Yeah, hear you on that one. I also wish somebody had told me how quickly people stop asking about how you're doing and start asking about the baby. It made me wonder what everyone else's answer would be. If you could go back and tell your pregnant self just one thing, what would it be? Lots of love, Hannah. I love this one, and I'm sure there's probably people shouting out all different answers. But probably the one thing looking back, especially with my first baby, it would have been the breastfeeding pain that I went through in the first 2 weeks. Had my mum, I've spoke about this a lot on the podcast before, but had my mum not reassured me, I may not have continued. It was that painful. So it was the first 2 weeks. I won't go into it too much. You can flick back in the back catalogue about what I went through. I was flabbergasted. I literally thought it was going to be put the baby on the boom and they feed. But no, my first 2 weeks of my first baby were excruciating, to the point that I would tell my partner I'd go through labour again. My toes would curl, I'd cry. It was really, really painful. And it breaks my heart because so many women don't know that, and they just think, oh, it's me, I can't do it. And they go, oh, maybe there's tongue tie involved, maybe, there's all different things it could be. But I wish we were educated more on breastfeeding. Women's health has always took a bit of a backseat, hasn't it? We're coming out with these new findings daily about women's health because it's been so neglected. So the fact that we're not educated enough about breastfeeding is difficult. Like, no midwife said to me, oh, breastfeeding, it can really hurt. I just want to warn you about that, but it usually gets better. Even just them kind of comments, so I could have braced a little bit for it. We need more support in that arena, I think. But yeah, the breastfeeding pain is the one thing I wish I'd have been a bit more warned about, because this is coming from someone now who's, well, I'm still breastfeeding my 14-month-old. I've been breastfeeding pretty much on and off since 2021. Loved it. And I'm struggling to give up now. I keep getting asked at the moment, because he's 14 months, oh, are you going to stop soon? And when are you going to? And I'm just like, it's partly because he's our last, probably our last baby. But also because I love it. For me, I've really enjoyed it. So that's the one thing that I would say I wish somebody told me more about. But send yours in if you're listening and you're shouting out now things that you wish you knew, because I know I have quite a lot of pregnant mums listen to this podcast in preparation. So let me know the things that you would have loved to have known before you had your baby. And if I can get a little list together, I'll share them all for those lovely expectant mums that it would really help. Next email says, what was the nicest thing someone did for you postpartum? Hi, Charlotte. I wanted to share the best gift anyone gave us after our baby was born, and it wasn't something they bought. My sister simply turned up, took the baby out for an hour and told me to go and lie down. She didn't ask if I needed anything because she knew I'd say, no, we're fine. A few weeks later, she even booked a massage therapist to come to the house so I didn't have to leave the baby. It was the first time I properly switched off since giving birth, and I realised what I'd needed most wasn't another baby grow, it was permission to rest. So if anyone listening is wondering what to do for new parents, my advice is this: don't just send a gift, offer your time. Hold the baby for the washing, take the older children to the park, or give them an hour where they don't have to be on. Months later, I barely remember who brought which outfit, but I'll never forget how my sister made me feel. Love, Emily. Oh, I absolutely love that. It's so true. It's so true, isn't it? It's so lovely and I'm also very fortunate to have a great family and friends around me. So I know how that makes you feel. You know, when my mum will come and she'll say, "Go and lie down. Don't fold the washing, just go and lie down." And sometimes as a mum, you need someone to do that, like you said. You know, if people ask, you'll say, "Oh no, we're fine." But when someone instructs you to go and have a minute, it helps so much, especially in the first few weeks. I remember Jason and I, we were in COVID when we had our first baby. So we didn't have much contact with people. But when my mum did start to come and my family, you notice the shift. It's like, oh, you know, this is the help we need. But friend-wise, I do remember a lovely time when I had my third baby. I had a blood clot in my vein. Luckily, it was my varicose vein, so it wasn't life-threatening. But I had a blood clot. It was quite severe, and I had to go to the hospital to get a scan on it. And they called me up very last minute. No, it wasn't actually. I was going to A&E. That was it. I sent my mum a picture of it. And she said, "You need to go to A&E," because it was all bruised on my leg and it was swelling, it was throbbing. And my mum and dad, I can't remember where they were, but they weren't nearby. So I rang my neighbour. Well, I spoke to my neighbour who lives next door. She's a good friend of mine. And drop of a hat came round to watch the baby and the girls while Jason took me to A&E. The baby was 5 days old. And I really remember that, being able to just count on her to come round, watch the kids for me. Well, luckily the hospital is like a 2-3 minute drive from us, so it's great. But I remember her just being like, "Yeah, no problem, I'm here." And she turned up for us. And then when I came back from the hospital, there was a bag outside the house. And my other friend hadn't knocked because she didn't know if I was back or not yet, or who was in. But there was a warm dinner in it with some drinks for us and the kids, and a big bowl of jelly, all there waiting for me. And I was just like, oh, that is just so wonderful, isn't it? When people do small acts of kindness like that, like you say, is much more than buying you a really expensive teddy or a really expensive onesie or baby clothes. Don't get me wrong, the baby clothes are really useful. We all need baby clothes. But acts of kindness, I think, you remember way more. And you remember how you feel in that moment. When I came back from that hospital, seeing that food there, and just thought, she didn't have to do that. Not even knocking on, not wanting to force, just, "There's your food. You don't have to think now." So I remember that really stands out. How my two friends rallied round me that day, and just helped. Yeah, I keep saying tonight. Can you tell I'm really tired? I'm sorry. Next tonight is what's trending. It is this week World Breastfeeding Week, and I can't not speak about World Breastfeeding Week. Whether you breastfeed or whether you breastfed for 2 years, 2 weeks, one feed, or not at all, I think we can all agree one thing, that feeding a baby, however you do it, is hard work. And what I really liked about this year's conversation was that it wasn't just focused on breastfeeding itself, but on the support around it as well. Because so often we ask mums, you know, are you breastfeeding, are you bottle feeding, or, you know, but when we should be asking who's supporting you, you know, who's supporting you while you're feeding the baby, whether that's someone bringing you a glass of water during a feed, making you lunch, taking the baby afterwards so you can have a shower, or, you know, simply telling you you're doing a great job on the days when you feel like giving up, in a way. Because we've all been there, we've all had them moments, especially when you're breastfeeding and it's painful, and I don't think you can explain that pain to somebody who hasn't done it, or the tiredness you can feel sometimes to somebody who hasn't. And it's getting that message across that just bringing a cup of water or telling you to go and have a bath is really helpful. And I think equally for parents who bottle feed, I think getting up in the night and sterilising bottles must be really arduous and really tiring. And that is one thing I would say about breastfeeding. The benefit is there's no sterilising, there's no, unless you're pumping as well. For me, it's a case of get the boob out. And I love that, being out and about, get the boob out. So I think if you're bottle feeding, you've got a whole other can of worms with having to physically get yourself up out of the bed, do a bottle, make a bottle, sterilise the bottle, and then feed the baby as well. It's all, no matter how you feed the baby, it's tiring, isn't it? So I think, especially if in those early weeks, and if you're wondering, why nobody warned you it could hurt so much, or why you find it so difficult with the overwhelming tiredness, please know that you're not alone. Feeding a baby, however you do it, is one of the hardest jobs in those newborn days. It is repetitive. You obviously have to do it. And I think that is a big part of one of those things, coming back to that email that nobody tells you about, is that overwhelming tiredness. And when you've just given birth, you're back home and you have got to feed this baby, however you're doing it. So I just think that World Breastfeeding Week is a lovely reminder that while babies need feeding, mums need looking after too. My self-care tip tonight is to enjoy the mini moments. And by mini moments, what I mean is, do you ever have those times when your baby or toddler is fine for a few minutes? And I mean like sat happily in a bouncer or playing with a toy for more than 30 seconds. I had this recently where the girls were doing something in the garden and they were pottering, they were fine. And the baby started playing in the sandpit and he was having a whale of a time by himself. And I was sat on my little egg chair, my favourite little chair in the garden. I was sat swinging on that and I was like, they're all happy. And for a minute, I felt like my nervous system just goes, you can just go, for a minute and enjoy that few mini moments where, whether you've got one baby or 3 or 10, I don't know, where they're all happy for a minute. And rather than waiting for the bath that evening or the walk you're going to have with your headphones, just leaning into those micro mini moments and just being in the moment and chilling while you can. I've been doing that a lot on the summer holidays, when there's times when, say, the girls are happy and the baby's napping, or he's playing in the sandpit and he doesn't require my immediate attention, or he's playing in the sink and I'm stood next to him, but he's content and I can stand with a cup of tea and I can have my mini moment and just be for a minute. So that's my little tip, because I think sometimes when they're all happy, it's easy to go and fold the laundry or go and do something, but actually no, just sit, observe them and have a bloody minute. Thanks for listening this evening. I hope wherever you're listening to this, you're coping okay, whether you're up in the night, whether you're in your first week of being a mum or your 12th year of being a mum, wherever you're at in your parenting journey, I hope you're okay. And I hope the summer is treating you well, and keep your emails coming to me. I love chatting to all of you. I always reply. Love having our little conversations. It's one of my favourite things about this podcast is the chats that I have with you guys. So keep your emails coming in, and I wish you all a restful, peaceful night ahead. Good night.